Welcome to this week's episode of You Good Bro. You're here with myself, Jam, and
JD.
And this week, it's been a busy week in the world of everything, politics, BAFTAs. So we came up with we thought it's our duty really to talk about this and talk about unconscious bias.
Yeah.
Because it's a big thing. It's been a big thing for a while, but it's coming to the forefront again. Vinícius Jr, lots of different incidents that have been going on with people. So, I thought it'd be a good time to sort of talk about that, and it keeps it topical.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot that's happened the last few days, and we had this idea for a while, and it kind of just fell sort of within the forefront of the media, especially last few days across the board. So yeah, it's a good topic to talk about.
So, unconscious bias, I think basically, let's just round up the week first of all. So we had the BAFTAs incident, obviously.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure everybody, you'd be living under a literal rock if you didn't hear about this. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage, and Tourette's campaigner John Davidson, brilliant film I might add, but we'll get onto that later, shouted out the N-word, totally involuntary, and they were rather visibly stunned on stage. And then that's been the debate of the week. Who's at fault? Should they have left John Davidson out of the room? All these questions, why weren't Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo tended to straight away? Pure questions.
There's a lot to unpack. But we did miss something as well. You good, bro?
How could we miss that? Bro, I'm good, I'm good. Just working away again in a day job. That assignment didn't fall to us because nobody in that whole situation comes from the Northwest. So we didn't quite get on top of that. And do you know what? I might just say this week, I'm so gutted that I don't work for ITV Wales proper, because Snoop Dogg going to Swansea was a myth. It's just brilliant.
It's weird. We're in that weird phase of football. I don't know if it's late stage capitalism, but every random person owns a random team. You talk about Michael B. Jordan owning Bournemouth. Snoop Dogg owning part of Swansea.
All stakeholders, aren't they?
We've got what's his name, JJ Watt, who's a American football player owning part of Burnley. Tom Brady owns Birmingham City. JJ Watt owns part of Burnley.
I think they must have just seen the Wrexham thing and thought,
Ryan Reynolds. Obviously, I'm sure our international listeners probably know more than our local listeners, but Ryan Reynolds partly owns Wrexham, along with Rob McElhenney, who's most famous from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So it's
it's a madness, isn't it? But anyway, if to all my colleagues at ITV Wales, I'm very jealous of you, because I would love to have covered that last night, because it went off. But are you good, bro?
I'm good. Just still easing into the year, like we said last week, it's just the year's flying by. January felt like a whole year in itself, but good.
Can I say as well, shout out Treehouse, Manchester Grime, shout out Big Up Wall Street and everyone that gets involved in Treehouse. I still have yet to come to an event, but I'm going to come to the next one, because Grime is my thing, as you know. So shout out Treehouse and Wall Street and all the man them doing big bits over there. But unconscious bias. I guess to start off with, because I don't think there shouldn't be many people who don't know what it is. What is unconscious bias?
Conscious bias is like you almost are taught a certain bias to certain, protected groups, and it's like you don't even know you're doing it, so unconscious bias would be a sort of maybe preferential treatment to certain groups. It would be sort of microaggressions to, it could be genders, it could be particular races, religions, it could be even nationalities. And that's what unconscious biases are. It's like society is so
kind of set in a way,
which is like, okay, two people could do the same thing, but garner two different reactions.
Well,
and that could be based on
yeah.
It could be based on class, as we've seen as well. That's another thing we can talk about. As we've seen,
it's not necessarily race. It can be.
Yeah, it could be a class thing, especially in the UK. You know, with the monarchy and stuff like that. It could be.
You know, it could be something as simple as
regional as well.
Yeah, it could be some. Well, that's another thing. Like back in the day, and probably even still now, like northern journalists wouldn't get a look in down south because you sound common, rare, that kind of thing. So there's that. There's also, I was going to say, something as simple as like, I might be like, I don't know, like I noticed it actually earlier today. I was at a local Morrison's and I was in the toilet.
Guys, for our international listeners.
Oh yeah, Morrison's supermarket, akin to Walmart. So basically I was in the toilet and a guy had left his bag in the corner while he was doing his thing. And I went over to wash my hands and his bag was there. I wasn't looking like that, I'm not bothered. I'm not a thief, do you know what I mean? So I'm washing my hands. And as he's drying his hands, he's like this. And I know I would do that anyway, I might add. Wherever I am, I would do it anyway. But the way he was doing it was like extra. And when you feel, is he only doing that? And he might not have been. But is he only doing that because he thinks I'm going to teeth his back? Like, you know what I mean? And, because I'm thinking, would he have done that if I was white? Or if I had a suit on? It's not just race, it's also the way you look. But that could be an unconscious. I don't know for certain.
But yeah, with unconscious biases, it covers everything. Ableism, it covers nationality, it covers regionality, it can cover class, cover race, and it's something which I'd be lying if I wouldn't say it affected certain aspects of my life. And I think it's understanding it from someone else's perspective too, because you see it in the news all the time. There's a recent report that's come out. And it was talking about it's a politician, and I won't even give him the benefit of the doubt of he's giving his name.
Don't even give him.
And there was a thing which comes out, and it's like, are you British if you're born in the UK? And that is an unconscious bias because a lot of people who are minorities are born in the UK, or if they weren't born in the UK, were born in a country which was part of the UK during the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you're born in the UK, you're not necessarily British, which that in itself is unconscious bias. And there's been lots of people who are of maybe a European or maybe like a Caucasian background who've come out and said, hold on, that's an unconscious bias in itself, because it's like after a few generations, no one will question someone's heritage. But you can be in a country for so long and you'll never be deemed British over something you can't control, which is where you're born and what. So yeah, with unconscious bias, what the politician was saying is you might not be, you aren't British. If you might not be British if you're born here, which is unconscious bias in itself, because you don't choose where you're born. You don't choose your race or gender or your ethnicity. So for him to say that made a lot of people feel uneasy. And also there is a thing where in certain sectors of the world, or in certain sectors of, say, for example, there's a particular crime which is associated with a particular
type of
person. If one sort of group was to do that crime, a lot more people would feel more anger to that particular group than a other group who did the same crime. Now the issue with that is, it's like, is your anger with the actual crime or is it with the person? And that is something which is so blatant to see, and you don't realize how things are angled. You look at the newspapers when crimes are announced, and the little unconscious biases that I see is like from how the person who portrayed the crime, the pictures they use, or the you see it all the time. You work in media.
But it's that typical thing as well, where it's like, say a black youth's been killed. What's the picture they use? They use them hooded up, ballied up. They don't use the picture of them with a certificate in the hand or whatever, which they probably they may or may not have. But if they do, they tend to use. They're not, and that's, I guess, a kind of comment on the wider media and stuff. But I want to go back to what I said a minute ago, because actually some of that upset me to the point where, you know, I literally felt it in the back of my throat, like when I was talking about it. And basically, the Irish rugby player, Edwin Adogbo, like the amount of racism he had, like he got his first cap for Ireland, right? His first appearance for Ireland, yeah. And a lot of people were commenting again, saying, he's not Irish, why is he playing for the Irish team? Two things are wrong with this. One, the brother was born in Cork. The brother was born in Cork. If he's not Irish, what is Irish then? If he's not Irish, he was born in Cork, right? Cork born and bred. Sounds like he's from Cork. Do you know what I mean? And the second thing is as well, people don't realise in rugby, it's a bit different to football. Like, you could play in their senior league. I might have this a bit wrong, but the gist of it is you can play in that country, in Ireland's senior league for so many years, and then you're eligible for the national team. Works a bit differently. But anyway, that doesn't even matter, because he is literally born in Cork. So, you know, that hurt me, because I thought, blimey, like, you know, his own people essentially are turning on him. But then the same people would turn around and say, well, these immigrants need to integrate. He's playing for the national team. If that isn't integration, then I don't really know what is.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
100%.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
100%.
And I think you see it in ways which, and what I've realized over time is a lot of people who might not be of a particular minority, or might be a particular gender, they don't have empathy for what those people go through. And it's having an understanding of what people go through before laying down your unconscious bias. There was a thing, actually, there was a TV show, I think it was on Channel 4, and they were talking with people who were against illegal immigration, and they actually took the route through Calais, and one of the guys who was talking, he was talking to an immigrant, I think it was from Syria, and he was saying, oh, why are you moving over here, and this, that, the other. Oh, you're gonna just do this, that, you're qualified. And he actually, and he actually sat down, he actually talked to me and said, look, I've got nothing back in Syria. I'm a trained nurse, and I want to work for the NHS.
Yeah. Is that not
and it's you know, out of anyone who knows living in the UK, that work for the NHS is one of the biggest honours, because it's a national health service, and it was formulated after one of the major wars.
Shout out Mumsy.
You know,
go work at NHS for a good few years.
Yeah, and it's such a pride of Britain, and it is filled with a big proportion of staff from the NHS are immigrants who move over, who are paying taxes, who are supporting people who, you know, have the privilege of living in the UK and having that as a free health service, because we do know, if you know, all it takes is you go on one holiday abroad and you get a scratch or you have to go to hospital to realise how privileged you are to have the NHS, and
100%.
And the unconscious bias of people saying that immigrants don't contribute to the UK is saddening. And they always use isolated incidents to sort of paint everyone as the bad guy, whereas it's like an isolated incident, whether it's in an immigrant community, whether it's in someone who's, say, native to this country or even born in this country. Unconscious bias should be, okay, let's look at this in a picture of who is the individual. If the actual crime is wrong, it's not based on their ethnicity or whether they're born, if they're immigrant or anything like that. And what happens is, with the unconscious bias, the way the media portrays it is they put everyone in a box and they say this is the issue. And they do it with class as well, and it's not just immigrants, it's all sorts. We've noticed it recently. Touching back on...
Let's move back onto the BAFTA controversy real quick. Sure. So the BAFTA controversy, like, we sort of skimmed it at the start of the episode, but we'll get into it a bit more. So for those who have been living in a different country with no mobile signal, the BAFTA controversy was basically, and for those abroad who don't know about BAFTA, I'm sure everyone does, but it's the British Academy of Film and Television, and the BAFTAs are the awards. So the other day, early this week, the BAFTAs took place, and Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, two absolute legends of TV and film, were on the stage. And one of the films that was up was a film called I Swear. I went to see when I was at the cinema. Absolutely, like, brilliant film. That is about Tourette's campaigner John Davidson, his life. So it's a bit of a biopic. And anyway, he was in the crowd because I Swear was up for a couple of awards, I think. Anyway, during the event, when Michael B. Jordan, and they're both black, just for context, were speaking, John shouted out the N-word as part of his Tourette's condition. It came out and it was audible. And on the BBC broadcast, it was very audible. Now, the issue is the BBC broadcast was on a 2-hour delay. Ample time for them to edit that out and get rid. The other issue is once it was shouted out, you can visibly see Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were visibly shaken by it. They carried on, to their credit, but they were visibly shaken by it. Now, what's come out since is a number of things. BAFTA allegedly didn't go to them and check if they were even okay. So that was one thing. John Davidson did leave the room, apparently, of his own accord because he felt the embarrassment of it. I'm stating the facts here. He left. And then after that, a ton of questions were asked. So we'll start with that and the questions that were asked. So the first question was, BBC, ample time to edit it out? So we didn't.
So we know that there was a proportion of the BAFTAs which was edited out, a part of a speech which was edited out, and that was edited out because they wanted to be impartial.
Yeah, it's political phrase.
They wanted to be impartial and they didn't want to mention it. Okay. Now, there's two things here. There's the Tourette's, which, the film is about the whole Tourette's experience.
But his
Tourette's experience. Then there's the word that was said. Okay. In 2026, when all we talk about is AI and technology and, how much are these BBC editors getting paid? Right? Because we in a heightened society where a lot of minorities in the UK at this present time aren't feeling welcomed, whether they were born here, they've got generations living here, aren't feeling welcomed, are feeling disenfranchised by this country, are feeling sort of scared by the future. Look at the political outlook and what people are saying, as I said about the politician before. Why wasn't it edited out? That is the question. Millions of viewers watching an award show, the two actors on stage, both African American. Now, Black History Month in the UK is in October. Black History Month in America is in February, during the award ceremony. All that needs to be done is it be edited out, a statement come out after, and also safeguarding. Speak to the actors who are on stage, who are visibly shaken, explain the situation, and make them feel safe.
I can't believe that.
Second thing, Tourette's is something which affects a big proportion of, individuals. And there was a report as well, and I've seen it in a newspaper, I remember it, there was a guy in Sheffield, I think it's like 10, 12 years ago, who had Tourette's, who was attacked on a bus because of something he said which he couldn't help. What has happened now is it feels like with the unconscious biases, it feels like one thing's happened and it's made one side look inconsiderate, and it's made a lot of people almost attack and abuse the actor with Tourette's, and then other people have looked to the other side and said, oh, these people who, there's been a few Hollywood actors who are African American who have said, why do you say it? And it's like both sides now look inconsiderate. It doesn't help anyone. But as a responsibility as a broadcaster to go, we understand how this looks. We understand certain things can't be helped. The word is terrible. Understand the state of the country. Understand you're on a national platform, the biggest channel in the country, probably outside of ITV1. Understand the power that the editing would have done. And it would have not shaken as many people as possible. Safeguard the actors who were in the room or anyone else who was in the room. And that's the best way to handle it. A statement. All of this stuff now is just covering the backs. And everyone's saying, don't attack John. Everyone's saying, protect, Black African-American actors. But no one's saying, where was the responsibility of the BBC?
The broadcaster.
Where's the safeguarding for the broadcaster?
Well, I actually heard since that John Davison, his client said actually they reached out to Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, more or less straight away to apologise, even though like a lot of people were online saying that's the first thing you should have done. Apparently it did. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, now the new kind of battle is apology versus kind of heartfelt apology versus apologising for the condition. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's now a new, the story's kind of shifted a bit now. So initially it was like, people literally calling John Davison racist, do you know what I mean? But now that there's been more discussion about Tourette's, which actually is a good thing, I think, because it means it's put it in the spotlight, albeit in a terrible situation. But it's kind of moved on now to, okay, well, is it the BBC that's at fault? Is it, should they have done more? I think we know the answer to that.
And there's the third point as well. Sorry to cut you off. The third point is there are certain, when we say about like biases, if BBC had the timing on a 2-hour delay to edit out certain other things that didn't want to be in the show because they deemed that to be sensitive or inconsiderate, where was the sensitivity for others?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, like I said, where was the sensitivity of others? It's almost sometimes it does feel like society feels that it needs to be across the board. You can't say we're going to edit this out because this might offend this group, but forget to edit something else out.
That will affect.
And then the sort of side effects to that is there's a lot of ableist against the person who said the word, which is out of their control. There was a lot of people telling the actors to be considerate, despite them might not be familiar with Tourette's. And as I said, the way the political and things are in this country, how were they to know? How were they to know?
I feel like sometimes people just think that Tourette's is just you just shout swear words. Actually, what another, I can't remember the name of it, but there's another kind of part to the condition where it's like what it actually in particular makes you say things that are wholly inappropriate for that moment. So for example, this is just an example. John got an MBE or I'm sure it was an MBE, and he went obviously to meet the Queen, goes to Buckingham Palace, and as they're checking the car, security, he shouts, "I've got a bomb." So in that particular moment, that's the most inappropriate thing he could shout. Then he said something to the Queen I'm not going to repeat, but he swore at the Queen. Do you know what I mean? So it's the kind of thing, it's whatever's the most inappropriate in that moment. That's what, that person is fighting against saying so badly, not because they want to say it, but because they know how their brain works. They know how the conditioning works. So that extra anxiety of them saying, I can't, don't say it, bang, says it.
But the responsibility, because like I'm a big advocate for, there's a lot with like with a disability, certain things can't be helped. Same with what your background is or your ethnicity.
Yeah.
You're almost born into this world in a way which but the lack of protection against both groups has caused this issue.
Yeah.
And there needs to be more done by these organizations with more responsibility on these people, because realistically, we shouldn't be having a conversation about Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo. We shouldn't be having a conversation about John Davidson. We should be having the names of the editors who've got to edit it out, and they should be the ones responsible for this backlash, because it is the typical it feels very toxic, and it feels like the with unconscious bias, the media plays such a part in the unconscious bias, and not everyone has the emotional or the sort of the know-how to sort of navigate in a nuanced way. So when people do react in a way which is ableist against someone, or I've even seen some racists against Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan saying they should be considerate. They should understand.
Well, so that's what I was going to move on to, actually. That's a perfect segue. Basically, I've seen a lot of black people online saying, you know, and I get it, and I get why it's being said, you know, like black people quite often are expected to just let it be, let it go. Oh, like, and kind of like be the ones that have to hold their hands up and say, nah, like, but, you know, you can't. But again, it's finding that balance. It's okay. Like, no one, I certainly wouldn't ever say to somebody, oh, you shouldn't be offended by that. He's got Tourette's, don't be offended. No, it's an offensive word.
But there's that thing where it's like, so we're going to like the Vinícius Jr. situation.
Yeah.
Now, Vinícius Jr. is one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
He's confident, he's charismatic, he's
as
a bit arrogant.
Fan, I don't like him on that level, but anyway.
He's arrogant, and we've seen it before.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Ronaldo. We've seen it Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the most arrogant players in the world. He's confident, he backs it up though.
But if you want to come on the podcast, Cristiano, that's fine.
I've seen Cristiano Ronaldo play in the new camp, score a goal, tell the crowds to quiet, right? Vinícius Jr., he sums up Brazilian football, you know. Brazilian football is about it's about style, flair, you know, exuberance, and he scored a goal against Benfica, you know, and he went, as many other players do, dance in the corner, celebrate with his teammates, and as he's walking back, a player on the other team, who I won't even mention, decides to say something under his breath.
So he literally went like that.
Under his breath. And Vinícius heard it, reported to the referee, and went off.
It was straight away. It was
straight
immediate.
away.
Because he ran to referee straight away.
And it's like the backlash that he's got from people, from esteemed managers as well, saying, "Oh, we shouldn't provoke the crowd."
That also, again, is kind of like, oh, he should just, well, he was as much to blame, let it go. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's what is expected to do.
And I think what happens is, being yourself is almost a crime.
Yeah.
You know, we live, like, look, give me an example, right? Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy, I've seen him score a goal against a team called Crystal Palace, right? For those listeners who aren't familiar, Crystal Palace, their mascot is an eagle. He scored a goal against Crystal Palace and he flaps his arms to make a mockery of an eagle, right? That is, in the UK, in Europe, that is that's arrogant, that's braggadocious, all right, cool, you might get a bit of people, some people might swear at him in the crowd.
Yeah, but race never comes into it.
But he never comes into it. He never gets anything like that. I've seen him howl against
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
And that is football. Football sometimes is football is a bit like wrestling. It's a bit of a braggadocious, a bit of, you know. Vinícius Jr., he didn't say anything disrespectful. He didn't say anything against Benfica.
Villain, isn't he?
He didn't say anything against Benfica. He literally scored a goal, danced in the corner, and what I was saying about unconscious bias is people were so triggered by that, maybe because he is, you know, he's a black Brazilian and he's confident, and they might not be used to that in certain circles, that they went to say something like a derogatory term under his breath. And then the backlash from that is, oh, we should know better. And it's like...
It wasn't only under his breath, I might add. He actually pulled his shirt over his mouth.
Yeah.
So he was blatantly trying to hide whatever he was saying.
It's sad because it's like, Vinícius Jr. is not offending anyone by dancing. He's not there's a lot, like I said, there's a
Wait,
lot.
defending Benfica fans.
No, but
but you're not.
But what I mean is, it's not like he's not disrespecting Benfica, not disrespecting the badge, not disrespecting the club. He's just dancing in a corner. There's so many celebrations that people do. That's part of the game.
I think Jamie Vardy was a perfect example of how that was treated differently. So, and no one's going to say Jamie Vardy, give him any kind of abuse on that level. They might call him whatever choice names, but race wouldn't ever come into it. He'd be like, oh, yeah, you Leicester, whatever, but nothing to do with, So that's another thing as well, like Vinny Jr., look, as a City fan, we've got a history of not liking him simply because of the Ballon d'Or thing. But that never ever warrants, of course, never ever warrants any racism or anything like that. I remember seeing that clip of Vinny Jr. talking in that press conference. Do you remember? And he's talking about racism is faced and how everyone should just be able to just play football. And that got me massively. Like when you see a man like, just living his best life, essentially, playing his football, being, broken down to tears like that, talking about all the racism he's faced, racism that his teammates faced, and his black teammates have faced. Like, it breaks you. Like, he shouldn't be in a press conference sat there crying about racism.
He shouldn't. And do you know what's crazy as well? Another thing to talk about football is there's a big thing which is said where there was a player in Germany who was sacked for speaking out against a war in the world, let's say, and he was sacked and lost his job. Now, on the other hand, Man United's owner said, like a very disrespectful thing. This is a billionaire owner who has a lot of power in the UK. Said the UK has been colonized by immigrants, right?
Which is so rich.
Research the history of the UK. 25% of the world approximately was colonized by the UK. Now, to say that the UK has been colonized by immigrants,
I don't even think he thought about what he said. I think he just came out, man. Because
no. You got to hear me out here. This is a guy who pushed for Brexit, moved to Monaco, which is tax free.
Yeah. By the way,
he got loans from the government for his businesses. Pays no tax in this country. And he has the right to turn around to say that when you look at how many United fans are either descendants of immigrants themselves, they've got a worldwide brand built upon a background of having players from different nationalities. Look at the 99 team going back. You got Dwight York from Trinidad and Tobago. You got Jesper Blomqvist from Sweden. You've got Jaap Stam from the Netherlands. You've got Peter Schmeichel from, Denmark. Back in the day at Quinton Fortress, South Africa. You got players from all over the world representing this team, and he has the cheek to turn around and say, "Look how many immigrants." Because what I don't like is the term immigrant is seen as low. Immigrant is a term for someone who moves to a country and works, right?
But it's used as a way to belittle.
It's used as a way to belittle. When people think of immigrants, people think of working class. No, an immigrant is someone who moves to the country. Look at United's front three. Mbeumo, Cunha, and Sesko. A Slovenian, a French-born Cameroon international, and Cunha from Brazil.
Well, let's look at by the class of 92. Like, in recent times, pretty much all United's greatest players have been what you would call immigrants.
Yeah.
Really, when you look at it.
Yeah. And I think that is what's sad. It's people aren't thinking anymore. People aren't taking into considerations people's sort of outputs into like, especially, I can only speak for this country. I've lived abroad, but like I only speak for this country at this present time. What people bring to the table, what people do is they make sweeping statements about groups, whether it's a gender, whether it's a certain community, whether it's a particular person with like a particular ethnicity. Have you
Yeah.
seen what's going on with the Somali community out in America and
Mhm.
Trump and what he's been saying? And they make all these sweeping statements, and it takes away the impact of what people are contributed
to the country.
the country.
100%.
And I know we've talked a lot more focused around like the race and ethnicity part of unconscious bias, but it affects everything. It really does. Like we've seen in recent weeks about the sympathy towards certain. The sympathy towards certain royals who've committed crimes. But I guarantee if that particular person was from a particular background, there'd be 10 times less sympathy for him. You know?
Totally.
And it's taken away. It's taken away. What it is it's talking about what someone is instead of what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to go to, I'm not even say go back to because we were never there. We need to sort of look at things on a case-by-case basis and go, why am I so angry at this? Ask yourself, why are you so angry at every situation? You know, because it'll seep into every area of your life. You know, you'll turn on the news and you'll see only one side to the story. You'll see this crime's caused by this person from this area, or that crime's caused by this person from that area, or this is going up, or that's going up, and you're taught that certain things are the problem, but you aren't given you aren't given the other side of things and the positive contributions that many people in society make. So when you walk outside and you'll see someone, you might see someone who's a mechanical engineer, but because he might look, or she might look, or they might look a particular way, and you look in the media and you're taught that that person is this, unless they tell you, you won't know.
It's essentially autopilot, isn't it? People's brains are on autopilot, and they don't really want to challenge anything. They don't want to challenge any kind of negative perceptions or stereotypes of a certain group. They're quite happy to just live in this sphere. Well, that's what it is. That's all I know. And very long in the tooth with it all.
Have you got any like experiences? Because he's talked about a lot of things. I mean, if you go back as well, we talked about the flag situation last year. You know, that got a lot of conversations flowing, especially within our listeners. But have you got any? You know, we shared a lot, but have you got any experiences of where you sort of might have felt like a sort of like a covert unconscious bias towards you?
Do you know what? It's weird because in my job I work at like literally every corner of the Northwest, and there are days, you know, with that thing where you say you go into an area and you know you're black. It's one of them.
Yeah.
Like if I'm walking around Manchester City Centre, I don't even notice it. I'm like, cool, because there's so many different breeds. But as soon as I go, like there's certain bits like Lancashire, like out in Lancashire, nothing against my Lancashire people, but there's certain villages maybe in Lancashire like, where you know you're black. You know what I mean? Like you go into a cafe and you are the only black person and you know you're black. Now, I know you're asking about unconscious bias, so have I felt that? I think doing the job I do, if people, in a weird way, if people know, and this is where the classroom comes in, people know the job I do, cover operator journalist, like, they're suddenly okay with you. It's like, oh, you're one of the good ones. And you get that feeling that that's what they're trying to come across. If I went in there in a night tracksuit, if I dressed like I dressed when I wasn't in school, in the mid-2000s, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying? So that's on that level, yeah. But as soon as I, you know, say, oh, what's it you doing around here? And I tell them, oh, I work for ITV, different. When you get pulled over by police, as soon as you tell me you work for ITV, different. So that's actually a big one. Being pulled over and they're seeing that you work for ITV or whatever, different. You get treated different, boy.
I've had a few. I've had a vast array of like. So one I've had is what's it? I'll try to give it an interesting one. When I went to America, when I was living in Canada, and I was crossing the border, right? And they look at me, and they think, Then they look at my passport and they're like a bit. Then I open my mouth, and it's like I'm a different person. The British accent strips away so much of like
the Americans love it.
It's weird. It's weird. And there's another time. I've never told this story, but there's another time. So when I was traveling, I went to like Vietnam, and I got randomly searched. Let's say right, randomly searched, right.
Yeah.
And I'm in the back, and they're talking, say, "What brings you here?" Da 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 da. Because they probably just seen who I am. So they're looking for my passport, right? And they look to say where I'm born, Manchester.
Yeah.
Their eyes lit up because they're all Man United fans, right?
Oh, see.
And
unfortunately,
they were like, "Oh, Manchester United." And it was like, if I had a passport from another country, if I wasn't from Manchester, would I be given the same grace?
It's mad, isn't it?
It's nuts. And I think I had a few, like, I've had a few in the workplace. So, like, I remember I did a little, when I finished uni, this is another story which no one knows, right? So, Jordan is not a common name. And I remember I finished uni and I was struggling to get a job. I was like, oh, let me just try something for a little bit of fun. So my middle name's Alexander, right? So what I did was I applied for 10 jobs, 10 with my real name, well, my first name, Jordan, and 10 with my middle name, Alex.
I know what's coming in.
Tell me why I got 8 responses for one under Alex and 2 responses under Jordan.
You weren't imagining it. It happens.
And it does happen. It does happen. Little things like that, like little, and it's like I said, with unconscious biases, it covers a vast array of different things. It's like I've got friends who are from certain areas, and you say, "Oh, you're from this area." And it's like, you know, all of a sudden your back's up against the wall. Yeah. It could be a working class area, and I've got friends who are from certain areas who you think, what you from there? And then there's then on the flip side, I've got other friends who we went to school with who are from like really affluent areas, and you almost have that. I won't say it's like a positive unconscious bias. You almost have that in your head. Oh, these guys are well off, and these guys are, you know, and that's what I think. Living in England, we're very classist. We're very classist. Massively. Like we don't realize how classist we are until we come away from it. I even remember, like, you know, like you're applying for jobs and stuff, right? Like, do you know, like jobs like electricians, plumbers, builders, they're really well paid, right? But they look down upon in the UK because they're not. There's that class thing where it's like, even though it's like it might pay you a lot more than your corporate job in marketing, because it's seen as working class. A lot of people have that unconscious bias to go, this job's beneath me, even though it might pay better. Let me go and do something a bit more, you know. With the unconscious bias, I'd say it covers every aspect of society. Like we see it with like TV. Like, remember Jeremy Kyle back in the day? And a lot of people look down on certain communities, especially like working class communities, and I see it sometimes in the news, and you're just like, oh man, you see it like in your comment section, and obviously like people are, there's no sympathy to certain things, and you need to understand where people are coming from and why people have certain mindsets, and how having nuance around how people can build certain mindsets will bring the world together a lot more, because a lot of people are dismissed if they are from certain backgrounds, or are looked down upon if they have certain views. Not saying the views are right, I'm just saying learning where the views come from, and instead of dismissing people, learning the influence that media has on building unconscious bias, learning all this stuff is what a lot of people are missing. People are very quick to dismiss classes, groups, races, because they are not using the context of what society's built, what the storm society's built, especially in the last few years.
Well, that was everyone. So we are going to leave it there, but that was it's so topical, you know.
Yeah.
If anybody out there has any comments on this, any experiences they want to share, anything like that, please do get in touch. You can comment on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify, comment on Instagram, send us DMs, that kind of thing. All good. And yeah, also, again, topics as well. And we've been getting them in. So any more topics that people want us to explore, whether it's topical or not, or more the wider field of well-being and mental health, then please get on to us. But yeah.
Any final thoughts?
You know, I think basically the world needs to, I think people in the world need to kind of have form their own opinion based on personal experience. Because how many times have you heard, for example, you know, things like, it's like people are halfway get there because, like, you can have a neighbor who's pretty racist, but then you bake them a cake or whatever. No, I don't do any baking, but you make them dinner or whatever. And I tell you what's a good one, Asian people. So, like, you know, it's Eid, and you might have like a racist person who lives in an area, you know, with quite a few Asians in. Next door neighbor brings round food. All of a sudden, oh yeah, my neighbor's all right, you know. He's my neighbor's one of the all right ones. You get that along. It's like, okay, well, apply that and say, okay, well, get rid of the stereotype then. Because if your neighbor is a good Asian, then why can't you know, like, you know what I mean?
I think what needs to be done is take people as, I know we live in a very individualistic society, but realize that some people are being, like, every time I walk out the door, sometimes I realize that you can make people feel uncomfortable without doing anything. And it's almost like you have to sell yourself to make people comfortable, to make yourself palatable.
And that's that's totally it.
There's been times in the workplace where I've been angry and stressed and this, that, the other. But I'm always conscious, looking how I do, of the sort of the, what's the word?
The kind of angry black man stereotype.
No, the kind of, the angle it could look like, and it's going back to, like, being yourself. There's a lot of people who almost have to stifle who they really are to be palatable within the world, and there's nothing to say, like, you know, within every community there's good people, there's bad people. Stop pigeonholing everyone. Understand people, go and learn, have a vast array of different friends from different groups, whether it's class, race, gender, sex, anything like that is very important, because you get to learn. I'm always constantly learning, and I think I'm blessed to have grown up in South Manchester, where I literally have the world's at my feet, where I have so many different friends of different groups, and it teaches me to be a more well-rounded person. And it teaches me to understand that when things happen, understand the context of things, and it helps me not live with a chip on my shoulder, because learning about the emotional intelligence, learning about what society can kind of go, okay, cool, this unconscious bias, you kind of can see where things are instead of dismissing things as they are. But that's just my final thoughts. You know what we could do, like part 2, 3, 4, 5. We talk about a lot of this stuff off mic as well, but I just think it's just important that we shared it, especially with what's gone on this week. If anyone has been affected by the events of the last few weeks, or the political sort of landscape of what things are, drop us a DM. We can talk. You know, like you said, we get a lot of messages in our DMs, both on TikTok and Instagram. So feel free to drop us, you know, a message, see how you felt the episode. Is any points you want to follow up on, then feel free to get in touch.
Well, so until next week, thanks for listening to You Go Bro this week. See you next week.
Peace.